Hi again, my name is Flo Rust and I'm Head of People at Man Bites Dog. So I'm going to talk you through some practical career advice and tips, what we look for as employers, recruiters when we're hiring, and a little bit about our culture and how we retain our recruits. Before I came to Man Bites Dog, I was people manager at PropellerNet, which is a digital marketing agency in Brighton, for 7 years. So I've worked in the digital and recruitment sector in Brighton for 9 years now. Both of these roles at PropellerNet and now at Man Bites Dog I found through Wired Sussex. At Man Bites Dog we always advertise on Wired Sussex, and as the recruiter at Man Bites Dog I can tell you that the majority of our good recruits came through Wired Sussex, through the website. Did you come through Wired Sussex? Okay.
I didn't.
But they did. Actually, Sabrina has been at Man Bites Dog longer than I have. So I'm really happy to be talking to you guys today. I'm genuinely passionate about people, recruiting them and then retaining them. I've interviewed loads of candidates, both at PropellerNet and at Man Bites Dog over the past 9 years, so I thought it would be useful for me to share my observations and thoughts on do's and don'ts in interviews and some tips on how to get your foot through the door in the first place. With graduate positions or first jobs in an office, I would say that experience of working in an office environment previously does help. It can be a steep learning curve just learning how an office environment works, little things like using a calendar, turning up to meetings on time, transferring calls, working in a team. So it does put you at a bit of an advantage if you have a bit of office experience. And even better if it's in a relevant sector. So if you're looking to get into a sector which requires you to work in an office, do try and get some experience, whether it's work experience or an internship. Anything you can put on your CV that shows you've been in an office before is an advantage. As an employer, I can tell you it's much more appealing if I can see that somebody's worked in an office before. It's a small point, but a relevant one, I think. So let's look at CV tips first. As employers, sometimes we get hundreds of CVs through, so you need to make sure that you stand out at this point and that your CV is excellent. You really don't want to fail at the first hurdle. Everyone will give you different advice on what your CV should look like, so you can make your own mind up really, but these are my top tips for getting your CV noticed and taken seriously. Please do keep it short. 2 sides maximum is totally fine for your first digital role. You should have a short introduction at the top of your CV about who you are and what makes you different. LinkedIn descriptions are a really good example if you're looking for ways to introduce yourself and explain yourself. Make sure you tailor it for each individual role you apply for. Incorporate traits and keywords from the job posting where possible that will grab the recruiter's eye. Do add in any awards or achievements that you've got, anything that you're particularly proud of, just put on your CV. And do make sure with your qualifications that your grades are on there, including GCSEs and A-levels. If you leave them blank, the recruiter might just wonder why you're leaving them blank. So think about the design of your CV. What will it look like when the employer or the recruiter prints it out? What font should you use? You really want it to be readable. Use a splash of colour, but not too much. They may not thank you if you use up all of their pink toner when they print out your CV. I can tell you that from experience. And get someone to proofread it for you. Just make sure there's no spelling mistakes. I am so praying there's no spelling mistakes in this after saying that. My personal preference is no photos on a CV because it's really not about what you look like, and putting a photo on a CV is giving the company an opportunity to make a judgment about you before they've even met you, so just leave it off. It's just not necessary. And I don't think a date of birth is necessary either. It's obvious from someone's experience and qualifications roughly how old someone is, and again, it's just not necessary. And also, there's no need to put like random information on CVs like clean driving license unless you're applying to be a driving instructor or a pizza delivery man. I really wouldn't bother. So just leave stuff like that off. Here's an example of a really good CV. I hope this doesn't embarrass Sabrina too much, but I'm using her CV as a great example. You can see it's got a splash of colour, it's got a nice introduction at the top, her education, previous employment here, and it's only 1 side long, so an exemplary CV. Personally, I think cover letters are just as important as a good CV. They're particularly important if you don't have much on your CV. In your cover letter, you should introduce yourself to the employer, explain why you're applying for the position, let them know why you are perfect for this role. Use it as an opportunity to get your personality across. Research the company. What do they do? Look at their website and their values. Research their culture by looking at all of their social media. And put some time and effort in. The employer will be able to tell if you've worked hard on your application. Just treat it like an exam or a project. And update your LinkedIn profile, because we do always look on here. Make sure you read the job description a few times and list examples of where you have transferable skills. If you get an interview, they will be asking you questions to see if you can do the job, to see if you can use your imagination to resolve issues. So have a think about specific examples. And you know what, like I've said before, looking for jobs and applying for the right role just takes time. You might need to set aside a day or longer even to get your CV and covering letter just perfect. Good things require work, and hopefully you'll get an interview and it'll be worth all that time you put into it. So when you get an interview, which you will if you apply for the right jobs and work hard enough, what can you do to increase your chances of getting the job in the interview? So you've probably all heard the statistics that employers make up their mind about whether they want to hire you or not within 5 minutes of meeting you. So here's some really simple things you can do to make a good first impression. Be smart. Whatever the role, dress well. It's an interview. Dress appropriately. I've had people come into interviews like wearing a swimsuit and a top hanging off their shoulder, and I just think, oh, it's just not appropriate. Dress like you're trying to impress them as a client. Smile. It makes such a difference, and sometimes nerves can stop you smiling. So don't forget, just look happy, just fake it, just smile. And make eye contact and give a firm handshake. I'm still always so surprised by how many limp-wristed lettuce handshakes I get, and it's such a small thing, but honestly, it makes such a big difference. Breathe, try and relax. You'll be able to think so much clearer and answer questions better if you're relaxed. And make sure you really listen, like feel the energy in the room and try and match it. And sit up straight. Body language is really important. Again, just use it as an opportunity to show off. So many people in interviews, when I ask them a question, will say to me, oh, I really don't want to show off. And I say, please do. This is your opportunity to show off. So don't be shy. Be positive and enthusiastic about the company. Let them know you really do want to work there. Show an interest in their work, their clients, the sectors. Be honest and inquisitive. Have energy. They will feed off your energy. And don't be afraid to let your personality show. The employer is going to be looking for a good attitude, so be polite and ambitious. And do ask a few questions at the end. You're interviewing them just as much as they're interviewing you. I thought it might be useful to show you some typical interview questions that you may get asked. So I won't read all of these out. If you think they look particularly useful, please feel free to take a photograph of the slide. But basically, I think I just wanted to get across the interviewer will be looking to see how you would handle the role and the challenges that came with that role. So just be prepared to answer these type of questions. You know, you can go on Google and Google typical interview questions, but these are ones that I regularly ask. As I've said already, make sure you have some questions prepared for the end of the interview. So here's some examples of questions that you could ask at the end. What does a typical day look like? So this will give you an idea of the type of work you might be doing, give you a great understanding of the role. It also shows that you're interested in finding out more. Another good question is, tell me more about the office culture. So this is a good question to find out if they're the type of people that you're going to want to spend your working days with. What is your favourite thing about working for the company? A good question to find out the best bits of the job. And do you have any reservations about me? I always like this question because it puts the ball back in the employer's court and opens an honest feedback opportunity. It may also give you some idea of how you've done in the interview. But I do say, if you're going to ask this question, be prepared for honest feedback and take it graciously if it's not exactly what you wanted to hear. So what I do want to say is, please don't worry about lack of experience when you start off in your career, or at least don't let it put you off applying. Employers are looking for passion, energy, and enthusiasm. Imagination is also so important. Use examples of how you've used your brain. I think Sabrina used a good couple of examples. You may have heard another cliche about recruiting for attitude over skill, but it's true. I'm a firm believer that anyone can learn anything, and each company is unique, so they're going to be looking for someone mouldable who can do that job perfectly, who can learn on the job. So show the recruiter that you have a good attitude and that you really want to learn. At Man Bites Dog, we pride ourselves on being a people-first business. People really do matter to us. In an interview, we'll be looking for the right cultural fit. This is absolutely not about hiring clones of our existing employees, but more people who complement each other. Diversity is a huge part of that too. Bringing fresh ideas and a fresh perspective to the organisation is exciting. We want someone open-minded who will listen to us and be eager to learn, but who can also teach us too. Everyone brings their own knowledge and experiences. It's my job to find a way to support people with giving new starters the right platform to share their knowledge and support them with their learning and development. From working in small companies most of my career, I've noticed that each person you hire makes such a big impact, so it's so important that they fit in. Being a team that works together is everything, really. We don't have any egos at Man Bites Dog. We all muck in at all levels, and that's one of the things that makes it such a special place to work. We have a really strong culture at Man Bites Dog, so cultural fit is, as I've said, paramount. I thought it might be nice to talk about what makes Man Bites Dog's culture work. The fact our team genuinely love their work is something that sets us apart from other companies. Claire Mason, owner and CEO, is very clear on the culture she wants, one of professionalism, high standards, excellence, and collaboration. Because this expectation comes and is withheld from the top, it genuinely does filter down. The great culture is very apparent at Man Bites Dog, and it just works because aspirations are aligned, values are shared, and standards are withheld. We also like to have fun, and we really do genuinely like each other. Our culture is one where we want to let our hair down and celebrate excellent work and achievements. We have fun and we reward ourselves, but only when we feel like we've earned it. It's a culture of work hard, play hard, and the driving force behind this, again, is Claire. Claire embodies the term leading by example. And like a lot of companies, our culture hangs off a framework of values which truly represent us and all we do. I've never worked anywhere where the values feel so true and authentic to the company. So how have we created this culture, you may ask? Well, we recruit, and we recruit very carefully. We always recruit for attitude, as I've mentioned already, and the right person has to be the right cultural fit. We want people who are smart, creative, innovative, approachable, passionate, and driven. It takes time to find the right people, but it's worth it, and the hard work at the time and the hard work we put into it is all worth it when we find the right person and then we retain them. They need to live and breathe our values, which I've mentioned, which are break new ground, part of the pack, mean business, and knock it out of the park. We work really hard on creating an environment where people can be creative. A creative culture is essential for the nature of our work. There is a balance between working hard, empowering people to be creative, and to work autonomously. We try to create an environment to work in where people can be creative. You only need to see our funky offices to believe this. So great culture is not simply about habitat, of course. Creating an open and safe environment in terms of communication is essential and something we do well at Man Bites Dog. We know that stress kills creativity, so we need to balance our hard-working, ambitious employees' workloads by creating an open environment where people can discuss challenges and frustrations openly. With this supportive culture in place, our employees don't just do excellent award-winning work, they also thrive personally, and in turn we get the best work back from our employees. We continuously strive to create a culture that plays to people's strengths, but also offers support in areas that need developing with regular training. We understand that everyone has different strengths and weaknesses, and actually playing to people's strengths is the best way to create enjoyable and meaningful work. We don't expect everyone to be good at everything, and we try and give people work they love where their experience and skills are best utilised. I am passionate about people and the culture at Man Bites Dog, but how are we different to other companies? Well, quite simply, we look after them, and I often get asked, what's the most important thing for employee well-being? It's trust, built on engaging, listening, and action. I also often get asked, what's the most damaging for staff morale and well-being? And it's treating people like numbers on a spreadsheet. We are humans. We require care, leadership, and involvement to be engaged. So my final tips on your recruitment journey. Always be professional and polite. However disappointed you are or whatever you feel, just keep it professional. Brighton is a small place, and you seriously never know when these people will come back into your life. Also remember that you are a catch. Brighton is small, and recruiting can be tough for employers as well in Brighton. There is a relatively small talent pool for the amount of jobs out there. With a sharp CV and a fantastic attitude, you've got a great chance. Just have confidence in yourself and put yourself out there. Be brave and tell the company, agency, recruiter why they should hire you. And do you know what? Even if you do spend ages on your CV, covering letter interviews and get rejected, just don't give up. Each letter you write, each interview you go to is giving you experience, confidence, teaching you something, and keeping you on the path to where you will eventually end up. And you'll end up where you're meant to be. Early in my career, I had loads of interviews and didn't get the job, and I felt gutted, and I cried, and had to pick myself up again and try again. And I look back now, and I realise that every single one of those experiences has led me to where I am now, including the lessons about being humble and having empathy and remembering how rejection feels and how scary it is to be that person who's being interviewed. So if you're interested in any opportunities at Man Bites Dog, please do keep an eye on our website and our social media channels. We're currently recruiting for a senior consultant, and we're growing. So we're likely to have other opportunities coming up soon. That's all from me. Thanks for listening.